Hey everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap Queen Sugar Season 3, Episode 7, which was titled Study War No More. So Charlie's having breakfast alone, trying to hide behind some oversized shades, and even after burning all those articles on Davis, she has to read one more article, and I think it was like a local newspaper, and they may have laid them on the tables at this restaurant. So she is looking paranoid, like people are watching her, but no one has paid her any attention and probably don't know who she is because there was a bunch of rich old white folks at this restaurant. So she pulls out Romero's number, but out of the blue, Jacob shows up. And so Jacob tells her that her new assistant has told him where to find her, so Charlie might want to check her on that. So Jacob wants to take Charlie on a real date, says that it could be far away where nobody knows them. He just wants an opportunity to do things right and so that they can get to know each other better. So Charlie says that she needs time to sort things out for now, but she just wants to stick to business. And Jacob looks crushed, but like he's not used to rejection. But he gets up, says he understands, and he leaves. So we move over to Ralph Angel. So Ralph Angel meets with Benny for breakfast, and Benny explains what happened and apologizes. He says that he invited his cousin over, and he didn't know that the cousin had invited other people over, and things just got out of control. And I guess he thought he would have them out of the house by the time Ralph Angel came, and he wasn't expecting Darla to show up. So Ralph Angel says that he doesn't play when it comes to his son, but he understands needing a second chance, and he's willing to give Benny one. So I thought that was nice of him. So Lord, y'all know we need captions when Ralph Angel is talking. So Darla calls, and she has, actually I thought Benny and Ralph Angel were at a restaurant, but I think they were actually at the house having breakfast. I can't remember. But anyway, Ralph Angel lets Darla know that it is Aunt Vi's birthday and that they are spending the day with her. And so Darla seems hurt because she had made all these plans for her and Blue. They were going to finish his room, so he could see all the decorations and everything. And then she was going to take him on a trip or something. But Ralph Angel shuts all that down. Then we go over to Nova, and Nova's interviewing Prosper for her book, and Prosper says that when he got out of the military, he leased as much land as he could because the Landrys refused to sell anybody any land, and that was the only way that they could farm. He wanted to have money enough for his daughter, like to send her to college, and so that she could have better opportunities and not have to stay in St. Joe and put up, with all the stuff that they put up with all their lives. And so Nova asked if he thought it was better to lease the land or to have owned it outright, and kind of compares his situation to what Ralph Angel is going through and what her dad had went through when he was alive. So Prosper shares that working the land had become overwhelming for Ernest, and that in the face of the death of his wife, money troubles, and a bad patch with the crop, his despair got the best of him, and that one night he was out on the farm, like walking around with a gun, and he was all distraught. And so the revelation that Ernest had actually considered suicide kind of hits Nova hard. And I got a feeling that we're going to find out that maybe Nova has tried or either thought about committing suicide before. But Prosper lets her know that there's stuff only God and the land knows. And, he says that he's just happy that Ernest had sense enough to call him that night and tell him, how he was feeling. And he was able to come out and talk him down. So the main part of the show was that it's Aunt Vi's 60th birthday. So most of the show was centered around that. So Hollywood comes in with a bouquet of roses from Marquetta, who I'm thinking is the girl that works with Aunt Vi, but who ain't been there the last couple of times that she's been cooking. And so Marquetta promises to come to Aunt Vi's luncheon, which she has, I guess, an annual tradition of having it at this house, not this house, at this restaurant. And so Hollywood wanted to give her a party, but of course, like everything else, she shoots him down. So he goes along with the luncheon idea, and then the conversation turns to Rollins and the offer that he gave her to start her business. So Aunt Vi is not happy with the offer that she received for Vi's Prize Pies, and I wish she would reconsider changing the name of them pies. And so Rollins wants a 60% cut, which would leave Aunt Vi with only 40% stake in her own business. So people were saying on Twitter and social media that he was trying to take advantage of Aunt Vi, but they were missing the point that he was putting up all the collateral. Like, he's putting up the money. So not only does he want to make a profit, but he needs to recoup his money. And if you guys ever watch the show Shark Tank, then you know that's how it works. Like, they never offer those people 50-50. And even the people that are well established and already have the business rolling in the clientele, they still want, like, the sharks still want a higher stake in those businesses. And we talk about Aunt Vi who cooking pies at the church kitchen, who hasn't really established herself except for this grocery store taking her on. So I thought the 60-40 was okay, especially considering Hollywood had offered to do all this stuff for her and she turned him down. And then Hollywood also points out to her, well, yeah, he's going to pay for the store fronts and and all of this stuff. So I think Hollywood saw that maybe it was an okay deal. And so it took me back to when I first started, when you guys know I'm an author. So it took me back to when I first started writing and going out, trying to do book signings at bookstores and stuff. And so people would always say it's a 60-40 split. And I was like, well, that's not fair. And then, they were trying to explain to me, but it's my store, it's my customers, that I'm putting you before. I'm ordering the books. And so you just get a portion of it. And so I remember this one bookstore owner said to me, she said, okay, well, fine. I tell you what, we won't do the 60-40 split. How about you pay me a flat fee of like $250 to come and set up in my store for the weekend? And I was like, okay. And that was a lesson learned, because basically I had to pay for travel to get to where her store was located. I had to pay for a hotel room. I had to supply my own books, which meant that I had to order the books, pay for shipping to her store. And so it all made sense at that point that there is a lot, money spent out getting yourself set up, and people, have to be recouped for that. So I hope it was an eye opener for that it turns out to be an eye opener for Vi, because she really is not business savvy. She's just thinking about cooking pies and selling the pies and not really understanding what goes on behind the scenes. Aunt Vi plans to counter Rollins' offer and present him with a pitch to open up her own storefront. So she had a little drawing and everything. So Hollywood is like, okay, Sojourner Truth, but here's a gift. Like, let's change this topic. So he gives her this empty recipe box. And she's looking at it, and he's like, well, there's nothing in it. I want you to tell me what you want, and then I'll fill that box up. So I think Hollywood is tiring of Aunt Vi's complaining and rejecting him at this point. So then later on in the show, Hollywood arrives with his mama. So Miss Willa May, and it is apparent that her and Vi don't see eye to eye. So I'm thinking, how could they? Because they're about the same age, and you basically taking this woman's son through the ringer. You can't give her no grandbaby, so she probably sick of you too. And it seems like Hollywood and his mom have a close relationship, so he's probably telling his mom all their business. So she's there for Aunt Vi's birthday and didn't tell anyone that she was coming. So Violet So Aunt Vi wants to know, where she's staying, but Hollywood shuts it down quick and let her know, I'm not putting my mama in no hotel. She's gonna be staying right in this house with us. So Miss Willa Mae gives Aunt Vi a custom apron to celebrate her pie business, which I thought was cute. So when they return from the annual luncheon at the restaurant, Hollywood has a bigger surprise. He has gone ahead and planned that surprise birthday party. Now they had a big old tent and everything set up in the backyard. So I don't know how he did all this without Aunt Vi knowing, but we're gonna roll with the story. So we haven't seen a party like this since the night that y'all remember when Maxine showed up. I can't even think of her name on this show, but she was Maxine on Living Single, and she showed up and revealed that Hollywood was married all this time, and Aunt Vi kicked him out and stuff. So there was a lot of drama going on at this party. Starting off with Ralph Angel had nerve to invite Trent to the party. So, the Bordelons are very welcoming, but everybody wants to know the truth about this work friend, because when Ralph Angel introduced Trent, he didn't know what to call her. And then Trent said, oh, this is my work friend. So Ralph Angel went with that. And so they had a scene where, they was out by doing the electric slide, and Trent, she was fitting right in. She was trying to learn the steps and everything. I was like, Lord Jesus. So Trent gets to meet Blue, which I think is a little too early for all of that. Ralph Angel, I understood Ralph Angel, Aunt Vi would have been very upset if Blue hadn't been there. But on the same token, he knew he was inviting Trent, so that really wasn't a good look. So the threesome head out to the store, and Aunt Vi says that she needs some ice. And so they go to like a convenience store, gas station, and of course they run into Darla, who's there getting gas. So Ralph Angel is the only one that notices Darla, and Darla's just standing there in shock because Blue and Trent, they're laughing and they're playing and they're really getting along like they've known each other forever. And then Ralph Angel doesn't even acknowledge Darla. He just gets in the car and drives off. So Darla, she's just stunned and hurt and just standing there as they drive on down the road. So I'm sure Ralph Angel is gloating on the inside, but this will set the scene for something bigger down the road when Darla finally confront him about having her child around this woman she don't know. So Nova's still brooding over the revelation that Ernest once tried to commit suicide and was thinking about suicide. And that information, like I say, seems to have shaken her to the core and may speak to something that she has dealt with in the past. And then it's just like another divide in the father-daughter relationship where she feels like Ralph Angel was closer to Ernest than she was. So Nova and Remy, who, remember in the last episode, she told Remy she couldn't see him anymore, but I guess Remy didn't take no for an answer. So while she's out on the side, I guess she was, I don't know where she was or how that house was set up, because it seemed like the party was in the backyard. So maybe she was on the other side, and she's sitting out there, and Remy comes over, and then you can hear Aunt Vi telling her to come on to the party. So Remy's telling her, he reaches out his hand and say, come on, let's go. But she says, no, I need a little more time by myself. And so, he walks away and leaves her alone. And I think that's part of the chemistry that they have. It's like Remy doesn't try to force her to do anything she doesn't want to do, whereas everybody else. So like Dr. Boudreaux was like, girl, come on here, and grabbed her by her hand and drug her into the house. Remy just like walked away and let her have her time alone. But then later on, they have like a scene where they're in the kitchen and they're not speaking, they're not saying anything, but they have like this unspoken body language that's going on. And so she grabs Remy's hand and she lays her head on his shoulder, and then once again Aunt Vi calling for her. And then they just, I don't know, it's like you want to root for Nova and Remy, but then you remember he was dating Charlie at first. But then I'll keep reminding myself him and Charlie never slept together. So I'm kind of willing to give Nova a pass. But I can't wait until it becomes public, because Charlie gonna kill her. Away from the festivities, Hollywood's mom asks him, she brings up concerns that she has about his relationship with Aunt Vi and wanting to marry Aunt Vi. And so she was telling him, he needs to start thinking for himself, and that Aunt Vi is an established woman, and what can he really offer her while staying true to himself. And so she's talking about the fact that Hollywood really wants to have children, but he will never be able to have children with Aunt Vi. So it's sort of like he's letting his life pass him by while he's taking care of Aunt Vi, but Aunt Vi is doing very little to take care of him. I was like, whew, okay, mama. So we were kind of upset with Miss Willa Mae putting out this information and filling Hollywood's head with this foolishness. But then on the other hand, Aunt Vi is beginning to be very annoying, and it may be time for Hollywood to move on and find somebody his own age. So Micah is really feeling himself, and he and Kiki are in the bedroom hugging and kissing and carrying on when Aunt Vi busts in. And what I tell y'all, I love this scene right here. So Aunt Vi was like, if y'all don't get y'all behinds back outside, like what did y'all in this room and got the door closed? You lost y'all mind. So Micah gets a text inviting him to go hang out at the lake. And so Kiki doesn't want to go. And then she tells him that it would be disrespectful to leave Aunt Vi's party, that they need to stay at the party and stay there until the end to help celebrate. So then Micah was like, well, you know, I thought you were close with them, that those were your friends. And so Kiki shares that she doesn't hang out with them anymore because their priorities have changed, you know, but she tells Micah he can still be friends with them. It won't bother her. But I think Kiki senses that something with Asha and Micah, and that's kind of like got her in her feelings and feeling some kind of way. And she don't want to have to kick Asha's behind. And I think she also realizes that Micah is kind of like, you know, like she was looking for this smart, preppy boy who has a future, and she probably feels like if he gets involved with these kids, he's going to get distracted, and that's not part of her checklist of what she's looking for in her life. So Aunt Vi returned and want to know, why are y'all still in this room after I told y'all to get out of here? So they get up and they walk out the room. So Micah goes towards the outside, but Kiki goes in the other direction. And Aunt Vi was like, Kiki, this way. Let's go. So like I said, I love that scene because it just reminded me of my childhood. So outside at the party, everyone is booed up, dancing. Kiki and Micah, Aunt Vi and Hollywood, Ralph Angel and Trin. But then once again, off to the side somewhere, we got Charlie this time, and she hanging back from the party, and her just upset about the whole Davis situation. Like, she just cannot believe that he has hurt her once again. Prosper comes over, and I like the role that they have Prosper in. It's sort of like he's picking up that much needed paternal void that has been missing from this show. And so I don't know if they added a male writer or got a male perspective, but I'm glad that they are utilizing him, and so he's helping them like be that voice of Ernest to the kids. And so he's been dispensing advice throughout the whole episode. And so he tells Charlie that you can stay distracted by your past, or you can focus on the future. That is really up to you what you do. So Charlie seems to take heed and take it to heart and listen to what he says. So the party ends with Aunt Vi finally showing Hollywood some appreciation, but it doesn't last that long, because when he proposes a toast and says that he can't wait for her to become Violet Bordelon Desane, or whatever his last name is, Aunt Vi's face dropped like the hell. So I'm like, okay, does she not want to marry Hollywood? What is really going on? So later that night, Hollywood points out that she has been acting funny since everyone left. And so Aunt Vi, you know, she just can't be happy no matter what. So she says that she is tired and wants him to know that when they get married, she doesn't want any variation of his name. And I was like, oh my God, like, could you have softened that up a little bit? Like, she said it like it was disgusting and nasty, and she ain't want no part of it. And I'm like, okay, well, how you want to marry this man if you have so much discontent? And I don't know about her sometimes. So Hollywood is apparently crushed. Like, okay, I done tried to help you with your business. I done tried to give you money. I done tried to give you a big wedding. It's like no matter what I do, it's never good enough. And so if you don't want my name, I have nothing else to give you. So Aunt Vi is adamant about keeping her maiden name, and that she doesn't realize how much her continuous rejection of him is hurting him inside. And I'm just like, how can you just be so selfish? And I know everybody keeps saying it's because of her relationship with Jimmy Dale, but Jimmy Dale was 50 years ago. Like, why are you still holding on to that hurt? And like, woman, you're 60 years old, you got lupus, you need to be trying to hold on to whatever happiness you can get in your life right now. So it's the next day, and surprisingly to everybody, Miss Willa Mae tells him that the fight over their surname isn't worth ruining the relationship for. And so she says that a woman like Aunt Vi, who's gone through so many battles, has to end up with some scars. And so once again, Hollywood goes to Aunt Vi and apologizes, but Aunt Vi stands firm. I ain't, you apologize all you want to, but I still ain't changing my name. And I'm just like, God dog it. And then when he says that, she doesn't have to change her name, that he thought about it and she's right, then she was sitting there like debating, okay, well, what else can I come up with? But then she realized there was nothing else she could come up with. So she's going to put on this fake smile and say, oh, well, I think I'm ready to have a big wedding. I want to do all of that, now that we got all this settled. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to see if that wedding ever takes place. So I'm going to be honest with you guys, if you haven't been able to tell already, Aunt Vi is wearing my damn nerves down this season. And if Hollywood ends up leaving her, I won't even be mad. And that is the God's honest truth. So we go over to Charlie and Romero. So they finally meet up and get to know each other. And so they're talking and laughing. And Charlie seems to be relaxed a bit. So Prosper's advice helped. And so he asks Charlie if Aunt Vi had taught her how to cook. So Charlie almost choked. It was like, no, my cooking skills equate to going to a restaurant and picking up takeout. So then Romero, he doesn't seem to be bothered. He says that his Guila, is it Guila? The Spanish word for grandmother, whatever it is. He says that she taught him how to cook and that he ain't lacking skills in the kitchen. And so he offers that on their next date that he cooks dinner for Charlie, and she seems to be happy with that. Then we have a scene where Darla arrives to get Blue, and Ralph tells Ralph Angel that they need to establish a schedule and stick to it, because he knew that she had all those plans for Blue, and then he changed everything up and took Blue, and there was nothing she could do about it. And so then he was trying to explain, well, Aunt Vi would have been upset if Blue didn't come, but Darla was like, I don't care. And by the way, who was that woman you had with my child? So then Ralph Angel told me, oh, she was just a work friend, but Darla was like, whatever, boy, we need to establish a schedule moving forward. So after a meeting with Deborah, that's the name I gave the investigator friend of Charlie's, Charlie and the family now know that the Landrys are planning to sell the land to a private, sell the land to the government, who are going to build a private prison on it. And so basically they finna kick all these black farmers off their land to build a dang gone prison that eventually will be filled with more black people. So the Bordelons are like, what the hell? So now they got to fight even harder to hold on to their land, because evidently their land is in the middle and they won't be able to do whatever they need to do without their land. But what the government does is eminent domain, where they will go in and snatch your land for pennies on the dollar. You can't do nothing about it. So I don't know how Charlie is going to fight this, but they are determined that they are going to keep the Landrys from going through with this plan. And I'm kind of happy that this has come up, because now it gives Nova something to do, because now she can go rally the troops and let everybody know what the Landrys are up to, and they can launch a big fight. And then maybe Dubois will come back to help her and all this stuff and get her away from Remy. But we will see how that turns out. And then people on Twitter, they were kind of pointing out that Louisiana has the highest incarceration rate in the country. And I didn't know that, but I do know that there's a push with the privatization of prisons. And if you guys ever watched the show, it was only for one season, but it was with Sanaa Lathan, and it came on Fox. Shots Fired. They had a part of that show was about the private prison system, and basically they build these private prisons. They have their own hospitals. They have their own education, like the schools and colleges. the prisoners are like working, and so although they're learning trades, they are actually working the prison for pennies. And it's sort of like out in California where the inmates are trained to be firefighters and fight the wildfires out there in California, but then when they get released and go to apply for a job as a fireman, they can't be hired because they have a criminal record. So it's just a vicious continual cycle, and it's modern day slavery at its best. So I don't know what any of this is going to mean for St. Joe as a whole. If the private prison comes, like, is the black community going to stand up and fight, or are they just going to lay down and take it? And so it is a interesting concept in the direction that they're taking Queen Sugar. And I mean, they needed to come up with something, because this whole Charlie and the Landry's thing was getting old, and we not understanding the whole. So now we got the whole, and we got a new story that they can pitch for another season or two. So guys, that's it for me. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Rate the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye bye.